Hi, this is Believe What, also known as Yam Juice, and I've got a special guest here on this episode of Human Nature. We've got Walmart Clown. So, Walmart, you and I were talking earlier about what exactly even is human nature. Tell me what you think.
So I think where I get confused in your commentaries is to me human nature, and if you look it up in Wikipedia, it's what we do by nature, right? So having a bias isn't necessarily something that human nature gives us. Having a bias toward somebody that's a Christian or even like today's commentary of blame. I think that's learned. I think if you grew up in an environment where people don't blame and everything is positive or viewed positively, and I think that's what you grow up with. So I differ a little bit with your with that being
With my definition. Well,
yeah, with your definition.
Well, see, what I'm trying to say is like, okay, human nature is not there's no way you could be raised in absolute isolation. Like maybe you could raise yourself and bottle feed yourself and change your own diapers or go hunt your own food, but you have to have other people. And that's how we become human, is the process of learning the culture that our friends, our families give to us.
That's correct.
Yeah, so okay, sure.
I agree with that, but I don't. And I think by human nature, since I think that we are similar to horses and others that find safety in numbers, and is that we learn from that culture, right?
Right.
Right. So whatever culture that is that you're brought up in, you tend to learn that culture's beliefs. So if that culture is one where everybody is blaming somebody, then you will get that. You will get that. But I think if you're raised in isolation, you wouldn't have got that.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying you can't be raised in isolation.
Driven to not only be hurting, but I think we also driven to find a mate. I think that human nature wants. I think by human nature you want to be, for lack of a better word, loved by somebody, right? Or you want to love something or somebody.
Well, yeah, absolutely. When I'm talking about human nature, I'm talking about ideas that are generally found in any kind of a culture that you might look at. Okay, the example of the video that I just put out talking about blame. All right, maybe that's not the best possible example of what I mean by human nature, but I think we're talking pretty much about the same thing. I mean, what is our goal? What does a person want? When you boil it all down, what does everybody want? What do we all want as people?
Right. So when I looked it up in Wikipedia, it said human nature refers to the distinguishing characteristics, including ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that humans tend to already have naturally, i.e., independently of an influence of a culture. So that's what Wikipedia says about it. And that's kind of the way that I look at it too.
Well, okay. Most of what I talk about.
Other definitions that support yours, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think we're too much at odds, but I think that no matter where you go, you're gonna find. Oh, great! I got a pop-up window here. Junk spam here. I gotta kill that. Anyway, no matter where you go, no matter what culture you're looking at, whether you're talking about Western culture or African or Eastern or whatever, I think people behave in similar ways. I mean, people have egos that they have to protect. They want to feel good. They want to feel good about themselves. They want to have high status in their community or their friends or their family. They don't want to have people shit talk them.
Yeah. So I think most people do. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if that's because that's born in our DNA, or do we learn that? I mean, is there any way to know what you learn from your culture and what you would learn in the absence of culture, since there's no way you can have an absence of culture?
Yep, that's pretty much impossible, isn't it? Since we're a herding animal.
Yeah, well, we also aren't like a turtle, that hatches and then makes it out to sea on their own, and they live their life without any help. I mean, we have to
Right.
be raised, all of
Right.
us. Uh, I mean, even a pretty independent person is probably not going to leave the house until they're 15 or 16. And by that
Right.
time, they picked up whatever mom and dad in the schoolyard is going to teach them.
Yeah. So, um, I mean, look at an infant, right? So there's some human nature things there. So they know how to laugh, they know how to cry, right? They
Right.
know how to feel pain, they know how to feel joy. Right?
Right. Those are kind of more like instincts. When I'm talking
Mhm.
about human nature, I'm talking about the ways we behave. Really, is what I should say, not just the ways we kind of automatically respond. I mean, if you
But
poke.
I think they seek. I think they seek the. I think by human nature, you seek the joy, the laughter, and all that, right? And you learn that if it's painful, then you don't do that again.
Right. Well, okay. So human nature, like, what do you think drives a person to play a video game? A whole lot, like we do. I mean, what do you think's behind that?
So the studies that I have read has to do with it is virtue, and that's why they have the reward system, right? So if you kill 10 people, you get this. If you do this, then you get this next level. You get this next level, and they've actually done studies, and there's endorphins that go off, right? So that's your body giving you a reward. Those are endorphins, right? I think
Right.
that's what.
Right.
Yeah. So it makes you feel good. So they've actually taken people who are claustrophobic and for lack of a better word, attention deficit, and then put them in tightly space and given them a video game with a reward system similar to Call of Duty and those, and they'll sit there for hours and play that game.
Okay, and the game is simulating going outside, or like, are you talking about somebody who's afraid to go out of their house or something?
Um, no, no, no. So they actually did this with some people in the military, according to the study that I've read. So they took guys that were a bit attention deficit, who didn't like close quarters, and put them in small rooms, and they played video games for a long time.
Oh, okay. Even though they're not crazy about small quarters, as
Yeah.
long as they're playing the video game.
So here's a difference in culture, right? That's not human nature. So in World War II, we'll go back to World War II. The Japanese thought it was disgraceful to surrender. In fact, that people would jump off cliffs. So it's by human nature that we want to survive, I think.
I think
right?
so too.
But yet these people jumped off cliffs.
But
They would-
also human
and
nature
they also
is,
kill themselves rather than surrender.
well, right. Also, human nature, you have to figure the other part of it. Why did they do that? Because in their culture, they see it as a great shame, and shame is the opposite of self-esteem and ego. So it's like your ego would actually make you jump to your death to preserve your
But
standing.
that overrides, in my opinion, that overrides what your natural instinct and what human nature. By human nature, by our instinct, that we have a strong survival mode, right?
Right, right.
Right. So those are cultural differences.
Yeah, but okay, so let's say your best friend, is about to get hit by a car or something, and this is like your absolute best friend, and you might be willing to shove him out of the way, even though you're going to get hit by the car. All right, that's not an instinct. Okay, your survival instinct ordinarily would override something like that. An animal wouldn't do that. Maybe a mother, protecting her own child, her own young, might risk her life, but that's something that's strictly human, and that's because of the attachment that we place on the other person, how important they are to us, and how much we care about them. That's will override
Right,
our survival instinct.
Correct. And in that particular case, you're trying to protect their survival as well as yours.
Alright, that was part 1 of my conversation with Walmart Clown about human nature. We'll be posting another video pretty soon, continuing this conversation. So thanks for watching, everybody. And if you missed a video, there's one on the left side of the Human Nature series, and just a regular game commentary is on the right. Thanks for watching.